Have you ever been stuck in a rut? Hit a plateau maybe in your career or in your fitness or in your relationships perhaps? Today's show is all about how to break through those plateaus. Stay tuned. On our show today, we have Peter Schwartz, who is a NLP coach. I just thought it'd be great to have you on the show because of all of your experience in the work that you do and in our conversation that we had initially. And I thought it was so cool how we met on LinkedIn. Just wanted to welcome you to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
The people that listen to the show are mostly sales professionals, real estate company owners and managers and recruiters. And so that's who we're talking to today.
Since this is geared for sales professionals, I built my business and my entire coaching practice on cold outreach. But I remember I had reached out to you on LinkedIn and I was looking to possibly even coach for you, right?
That's right,
and the conversation was just so fluid. And then there was something that happened in the moment, which was very strange for me, which was you were asking me these really good questions that I was like, wait, this guy knows his stuff. There's something that like, he knows something more than he's letting on here. And we just ended up dovetailing into so many different avenues of NLP. And so that was a ton of fun. And so here we are. So I'm hoping to, I guess in this short amount of time, provide some form of value to your listeners who want to grow their revenue in terms of their sales businesses. And so I truly do operate from the belief system that 80% of success in anything is the mindset, the values, the beliefs, and 20% of it is strategy. So typically what I'll find is that people know what the strategy is. They know that they need to be setting more appointments. They know that they need to be prospecting. And if they don't, they can easily access the strategy, but for some reason, they're not executing on the strategy. And so to me, that comes back to mindset. And that's the most, in my opinion, the most powerful place to begin to make an intervention.
That is so huge. Going back to our initial conversation where you just reached out to me from LinkedIn and, I was impressed by the level of expertise that you had because, for people that have never heard the podcast before, I used to work for Tony Robbins on a corporate level. And right. I actually currently still work for Tony as a volunteer event coordinator when he's, in different parts of the country and different parts of the world. I've done events all over the world in London, Switzerland, Germany, Hawaii, all over the United States. And I'm telling you that because in Tony's training that I've experienced is phenomenal. And in the way he communicates and the way he transfers his wisdom, his experience, his knowledge to the people that are listening. And in my experience with our conversation and in talking with you and our friendship, I've tremendous respect for the level that you've achieved in a relatively short amount of time. How long have you been doing this, just out of curiosity?
I've always been somebody who believed that I could do great things. So I went to my first coaching training in 2010, right, with Richard Bandler, and I had cards printed. I printed my first coaching cards. I was going to go off and I was going to become radically successful, right? Yes. And I was just determined that I was going to make this happen. And then crickets, right? Just like crickets, nothing happens. And then so much. And if, just being real, like so much of it for me was my own personal shyness or insecurities and also not confident. So there was a lacking confidence because, I had been to the training, but now that I had been to the training, I wasn't owning the material. It wasn't in my neurology. Hopefully at some point in this podcast, we can talk about what are the 2 key or 3 things that make powerful mindset shifts for people. And, I wasn't confident that I could actually do that for people. So I went deeper. I went really, really deep into study. And, I did everything on the planet. I did hypnotherapy, anything that I could see that was getting a result for people. I went and I studied it, right? So I studied the peak performance coaching. I studied every single modality that I could get. And then ultimately, when I was able to actually change the beliefs for myself and get myself to a place where I was executing my strategy consistently, that was when I felt like, okay, now that I've mastered me a little bit better, now I feel confident enough to go out there and start coaching. And so that was closer to around 2015. And then my business really started to take off in November, actually. So it's very recent that it started to explode.
Very cool. Very cool. And that's the power of digital marketing and exponential technology. And, I built my career on, teaching professionals like you and the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis, how to use these technologies to grow their business. And that's why, I'm super excited to have you on. And for the people that don't know what NLP is, can you tell them what that means? And because I don't think we described the acronym.
Yeah, so NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And Richard Bandler, the co-creator of NLP, tells the story of getting pulled over in his car, and the officer asked him, "What is it that you do for a living?" And he had 3 textbooks lying on the floor of his car because he co-created NLP with John Grinder, who was a professor. And on the floor was a linguistics book, a programming book, and a physiology book. Right? So neuro-linguistic programming and neuro, right? Obviously the mind, and we're going to include in that the mind-body connection, and linguistic, our language, how language literally structures consciousness. And then programming, what is your habituated thinking? What is the thinking that is automatic and shows up for you on a regular basis? Everything from what you believe to be true about yourself, to other people, to what are your conditioned states? Right? So are you living in a beautiful state when you're in a state of joy and gratitude? You know those times in your life where something surprised you with how amazing it is, right? If you can learn to channel that type of state by changing the way you think, changing your physiology, you can actually condition yourself to be in that state much more often. And those things combined with the belief system create a self-fulfilling prophecy for you.
Yeah.
And whether or not we choose to harness these things, you have a belief system that you inherited from your environment. Most of us inherited it haphazardly. Most of us are living in the most abundant time on earth. And we are living out of a nervous system that is designed to protect us from lions and tigers. So we are, wealth and abundance is everywhere, and we're more stressed out, more anxious than ever, right?
Absolutely.
So to me, the question becomes, are you going to take this back, take control of it back for yourself, start creating the self-fulfilling prophecy that you want to create for yourself so that you can actually start taking advantage of the things like digital marketing. So I don't have to leave my house to get clients, right? Or whatever it is, so that you can start executing on those strategies for yourself in a way where you not only set and achieve the goals, but you ultimately feel the fulfillment. You get into alignment with yourself, and you create a life that's meaningful on your terms.
Yeah. Powerful, powerful stuff. The experience I have in work with Tony and the transformations that I've seen Tony make with people, and, not just Tony, but people who are experts in NLP like you are, the shift is so profound. I remember being in a class once, and it was done by one of the top producers here in my area. And I always remembered it because he was having difficulty door knocking and doing the traditional things early in his career to generate business, door knocking, cold calling, just all the traditional stuff. And he decided to go to a hypnotist and hypnotize himself to do the work. And it worked. And I was sitting in a class observing him present on how to become a top producer. And like I said, this was years ago, but I'm sharing this with our audience because it's so powerful. The quality of your life is the quality of your communication, number one, with yourself, and number two, with other people. Keep that in mind. And, if you go to one event, it's cool. The thing where it comes into practice, in my experience, at least, is just, it's like a training. Every day you have to remember these critical components of communication with yourself and with others so that you can, take your life to the next level, whatever level that might be. You're going to be doing an event coming up in October, right? In the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What are the participants going to get by going to that event?
I started getting incredible results. So what you talked about right now about somebody being afraid to door knock, or just not door knocking, whether or not they were afraid, they just weren't doing the things they knew they needed to do to be successful. And so I had a lot of that in my past, and I really struggled with it. I knew that I was capable of more, and it was driving me crazy that I could not get myself to be the person that I wanted to be. So in November, when, I had overcome all of that, but also I was able to produce those types of shifts in people. So somebody, a real estate agent who had her business for 10 years and had never called people. And then we calculated all of the money she would have made if she had been calling, or the effect of that over the course of her future, right?
Crazy.
And then in 1 hour, get her to a place where she's picking up the phone and it's easy and fun, right? So what I want to share on October 5th is how people can learn. So I'm going to be giving them the exact blueprint that I use to transform procrastination, completely get rid of self-sabotage, and change your belief system, right? If we know that that is really the core of the type of life that we manifest for ourselves, then I really want to give people the tools to be able to choose your beliefs on purpose rather than what you inherited from your environment because a teacher looked at you when you were 5 and said, you'll never blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's really about claiming back that freedom to be able to choose what you want to believe, choose what you want to think, and then feel the way you want to feel. So ultimately, you get past whatever these current limitations are, and then go create that magnificent life that people like you and me, and probably a lot of your listeners, I know that the majority of agents are familiar with coaching. They're feeding their mind. They know that more is capable, that they're capable of more. Now claim it. Now claim it. There's a lot of people saying, yes, have a better attitude. You need to think, have better thinking habits. Here's how you do it. And that's what we're going to be doing on October 5th, is showing the people of how to actually change their belief system, align their values, change their emotional state so that the peak performance thing becomes natural. And over time, they become higher and higher performing, but with this key understanding that high performers are more fulfilled, that they're creating a life, forget work-life balance. How about work-life integration, where you're totally aligned with what you're doing and you're creating the experiences you want. So that's what we're going to be getting into.
There's also so much opportunity to heal as well. Like I know in my life, there's been so much trauma. You don't really realize it's trauma when it's happening until sometimes, literally, I woke up about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago and realized how devastating it was that, we had some family we lost part of our business early in my life. And I didn't realize how traumatic it was as a trajectory in my own life. And, I realized what had happened after the fact. And so traumatic experiences like that people have had, these type of trainings can help you overcome these difficulties in the past. Like you mentioned, the teacher and the student, and the teacher giving a negative command to a student. And if you had negative commands like that from, your parents, your family, friends, it's all an opportunity to heal your life. And, I think at the highest level that I've achieved in my own life, it's such a profound thing that you mentioned earlier about living in that beautiful state. But sometimes it's hard to get to that state if you don't know, if you're just in so much trauma and so much confusion and so much overwhelm that it's kind of hard to focus because you don't know what you don't know. And, in my experience in talking with you, not just today, but in our conversations that led up to this moment right now, you've helped me gain clarity on my identity and what it is that I'm looking to achieve going forward. So I'm really grateful for you in my life and, a time that we're spending right now.
Well, thank you. And I'm honored and grateful to be here. And these conversations are the most important thing to me. They really are. And so, whether people don't realize, like you said, the quote unquote traumas that happen, it's our unconscious mind experiences something that's painful or negative or fear inducing. And then it makes a decision outside of conscious awareness, right? And so it clings on to that decision for years. And there are still people today who are struggling to build their business because when they walked into middle school, they didn't feel as cool as somebody else was, right? And so we're carrying these little wounded parts of ourselves into the boardroom. And it's time to let that heal that, resolve that, so that you can start to get into the beautiful state. Once you let go of that, or rather we do a little bit of re-imprinting, heal that inner child, give them the resources they need. And these are not long therapeutic issues. I personally believe in having a practice for continually improving yourself. I think that's mandatory for somebody who wants to have an extraordinary quality of life. I think that practice is important. But healing is not necessarily a 5-10 year thing. You can give yourself those resources, heal that part of yourself, integrate that back inside so you feel safe, you feel loved and accepted. And now what used to be a problem, you actually feel drawn to. So yeah, I mean, that's an incredible point. And you see it over and over again. I was working with a real estate agent who he wouldn't door knock and he wouldn't make calls. And we got back to this belief that he was shy. And so we changed that belief from I'm a shy person to I'm a social person. And the next thing you know, he's going on an appointment a day, a new appointment a day, which you can imagine the ramifications financially for a real estate agent if you're going on an appointment a day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's a huge game changer for agents, especially if they're stuck at a level. And in my experience, there's I've worked with some really, really top performing companies, top performing agents, and I've worked with the opposite as well, like people who are, struggling, people who've been in the business and kind of feeling burnt out, people who are just starting out as well. And what I've realized from the top achievers, the masters at the highest level, is that the masters at the highest level, they appreciate the reminders. But the people that are struggling and just starting out who think they know it all, that'll keep them at their level. And so I always remember the masters appreciate the reminder. So even if you're a top performer and a top producer, maybe there's something that I actually feel very strongly that there's something that you can learn in the event that you're having on October 5th. And, because you can have it all. You can be a deca multimillionaire and treat people really meanly and really bad. And at the end of the day, you could feel like trash, because you get your ego kicks from putting down other people. And if that's you, you need to be at this event as well if you want to change that. If you don't want to change it, keep doing your thing, enjoy your money and live a great life if that's what makes you happy. But, there's levels of success. No matter how much money you're making, there's always room to make more.
So if you're a Mr. Scrooge and you want to stay Mr. Scrooge, then by all means. It's funny that you say that because I actually worked with a guy who went from residential real estate and then through the coaching became a commercial real estate agent.
Nice.
And then started killing it in commercial. Now, here's what was interesting. All of that success, ultimately, he had made a rule in his mind that in order to be loved, I need to be successful. So yeah, the coaching got him successful. But at one point in the coaching, we discover, okay, well, there's still something missing. So now that he had all this money, he had all this success, let's go back in and let's start to generate that love from within. So now that we've done that, his relationships are better. He's setting better boundaries for himself. So, there is always another level of growth. There's always a next phase. And my favorite part about this training is that you get to take the tools yourself. You're getting exactly, this is how I discover what values are driving my current situation. This is how I change a belief. This is how I cultivate those states so that ultimately I love what I do. I'll do it forever. But to me, the goal is to give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish. The goal is to get my students, my co-creators, to be able to change their beliefs on their own, to be able to do these things for themselves. So that to me is the real exciting part of the training.
Oh, absolutely. And I think people, it's such a great opportunity because you open up the question, because a lot of people don't take the time to think about these things. It's going to give the people there, in what I've observed from what we've talked about, it's going to give the people there an opportunity to explore their thoughts and to use this space as a place to grow and to take, to take their life to the next level with your guidance.
The event itself is on Saturday, October 5th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's Saturday, October 5th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we're coming up on it. And it's at Hub 101 in Westlake Village. California.
Very cool. And is it on your website or anything? Where can our listeners learn more about you?
So they can go to my website, myhighestpotential.com. And they can also find me on Facebook, Peter Schwartz, or on Instagram at myhighestpotential.
You've done a lot of training, and this is what prompted this call today, this podcast interview, because you had such an amazing story about how you broke through. What would you say are the top 3 things that you've learned in this neurolinguistic programming and all the training that you've done that you think would be valuable for our listeners? Your top three things.
So it's actually challenging for me to remember which breakthrough moment it's because there have been several.
Okay.
And I think the best part about learning this skill set is you can create them. So I do this about once a week for myself, and I change a belief once a week. And every belief that you change is a breakthrough. Every belief you change is a new self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, some are bigger than the others. So the top 3 for me were: every limitation that you have is meeting a positive intention. So every time you eat the Cheetos, every time you don't call, every time you do, there is a deep core value behind those Cheetos. There is something that you get to experience by eating those Cheetos that's important to you. And so what I realized was it's actually not about grinding to be successful. It's not about discipline. It's not about willpower. It's about aligning your values. So if when I eat Cheetos, I get to feel satisfied. One, that's a value. I get to feel comfortable, right? I get to have variety, right? If I can align satisfaction and comfort and variety with eating healthy, and you can do that, then I will be drawn to eating healthy. So the first realization is stop fighting yourself. There is a reason why you're behaving a certain way, and that's to meet a value. Align your values with your goal. And this is, Tony Robbins says this as well. If you align 2 or 3 values with a goal, it will become an addiction for you. Nice. And so obviously we want it to be a positive addiction. And if you've ever made a change in your life, once you get that change habitualized, it feels good. Mm-hmm. So we want to align our values. That's the first thing. The second thing is change the belief. So And the most important beliefs are your core beliefs about yourself. So my biggest transformations were going from I'm a procrastinator to I'm a productive person. A little bit about my story. I came out here to Los Angeles. First I started with my body. I became a martial arts instructor.
Nice.
And got in the best shape ever. That was a great time. And then I knew that one day I would be coaching. So there are requisite skill sets, right? So sales. So I got a job as a car salesman, and I learned how to sell. And then slowly, and then when I was going to build my business, I couldn't get clients. I could not get clients to save my life. And then I discovered I had one of those limiting beliefs in there, which was, what was it? It wasn't that I was an unsuccessful person. It was just that I didn't see myself as a successful person. So I used the exact process that people are going to learn at the seminar. And I transformed that belief so that if you ask me, are you successful? I feel it in my bones. I know I'm successful and I expect to be successful. And so since then, after transforming that, it is huge. And after transforming that belief, I got 4 new clients the next day. And then the week after that, I got 4 new ones. Wow. And then I filled my practice that month. And I've been increasing my rate since then and filling my practice at every price point. And then getting collaborations with other coaches. You and I met each other. Yep. And we're, so it's like these continued things continue to happen, all as a result of changing one belief system. And so that's the second thing. Learn to change your beliefs. Most importantly, your identity level beliefs, the beliefs that come after the words I am. And the third thing I would say is to make it a habit. So put yourself in an environment, put yourself around people, get a coach, get mentors, do something to make sure that you're having these conversations on a regular basis. Investing in yourself will pay the most interest, the most dividends.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. What are you
yeah.
reading these days that has been inspiring you? Because, we've talked a lot about Tony today, but if there's any other ones that come to mind that you think would be valuable for our audience, let's hear it.
Yeah. So I really like Transforming Yourself by Steve Andreas.
Okay.
And that is the exact process that I'm using at the seminar, and they can learn how to change a belief. I still think it's useful to have somebody do it with you or for you. And then there's also The Meta Pattern by John Overdurf, it gives you kind of a self-coaching pattern. So you can teach yourself how to change the way you think, change the way you feel, and the way you behave, and link it to the environments where you want to have that take over.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the Think Status podcast. Where can our listeners find you online on social media and stuff like that?
Well, so I think the best place for people to interact with me today is Facebook. That's my highest potential.
Awesome, Pete. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been a great time talking with you about all this technology. It's,
Awesome.
Mind technology, brain technology. So what would you say to somebody that's like skeptical about this type of stuff, that maybe has no idea what NLP is, or, has no idea where to get started? Like, what would you tell somebody who's super skeptical, who's just, maybe closed-minded, who's opening up their mind as a possibility to get in more into this? What would you tell somebody who's skeptical?
Are you skeptical enough to be open-minded? So if you're so convinced that it can't work, are you sure enough to be unsure? Are you skeptical enough to be skeptical about your own belief system? And these are not my ideas. I didn't come up with this stuff. This is all backed up by research. If you look into self-fulfilling prophecy, there's a great article on Psychology Today. There's tons of research that talk about the role that your attitude and your beliefs have. There's nothing that's new about this. What's new is, do you have a process to use the feature of the mind called belief systems? Your brain is going to do it anyway. So either you're a slave to it or you choose, and that's your choice. And then I would also say, okay, bye-bye. I have to go help the people who are ready and willing to do it, because there are a lot of people who are saying, you know what, I do believe in the power of the mind. I know that I'm capable of more. So I have to go help the people that I can help. So I would offer them that question. I would say, are you skeptical enough to challenge your own belief system and get curious? And, if a fraction of what I'm saying is true, then you owe it to yourself to find out. You owe it to yourself. And if they're not curious, I want to work with people who want to do this. That's what lights me up is. So part of it would be that question, and part of it would be, okay, see you later.
Even if you've heard this before, I'm going to highly encourage our listeners to attend Pete's training, or just sign up for his, friend him on Facebook, sign up for his training. Cause just in observing his videos, I've seen you on Instagram, and it's so inspiring, and it's always great, especially if you're, having a bad day or something, you want to just have a pattern interrupt, get inspired. This is your guy. It's been a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Hector.
So that's a wrap for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this. And if you'd like to follow us online, we're at Think Status on Instagram. And a special thanks to El Rio Los Angeles for providing the music. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Llueve fuego del cielo, quemando a los que me quieren matar. Por causa de soberbia, mi piel morena me protegerá. Camino por las calles, el fuego alrededor de mí. Todo comienza a caer. Regresan a su lugar, el río comienza a fluir, miro hacia el cielo, el sol y las nubes, 1000 pajaritos al cantar, ay la ra ra, canta la ra y la ra, cantará ira, ira, ira. Cantar, 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 cantará. Después mi gente se levanta, quitándose el traje de Babilonia, bailando ahora en vestido tradicional. La primavera ha regresado y el verano corazones calentará. Pronto que pronto nos convertiremos en la tierra, unidos con el mundo germinaremos con ella. Ojos serán hojas comiendo del sol y la mente se abrirá como una flor.